there, my name's Paul, and this is Out of Neutral, a weekly tune-up where we look to the Bible to get in gear and follow Jesus into the life he came to make possible. Today I want to talk about whether Christians should stop arguing about their beliefs and just focus on being better people. Philip Gully tells the story of his debates in grade 6 with his best friend Joe. Philip was a Catholic. Joe was a Jehovah's Witness. Each tried to convince the other that they were wrong. While Gully would go on to abandon his beliefs in God, he would often think about Joe and reflect on their playground arguments. And he concluded that their attempts to convince each other of right and wrong were misguided. He longs for a world where we don't concern ourselves with the perceived errors and heresies of others. And something about his story and his conclusion ring true. But are they? Are we too uptight about discerning what's true? Should we just focus on being better people? I'm not convinced that kindness and goodness can flourish apart from the truth. Here's why. You can't become a better person without the truth. What we do flows out of what we believe. For example, suppose you believe that there's no God, no judgment, and the strong conquer the weak. In that case, it makes it much more difficult to sacrifice for others and show compassion in hard situations than if you believe in a God who holds us accountable and calls us to love our enemies. Ironically, Gully doesn't seem to recognize that he's still the same boy that he was in the playground arguing with his friend Joe. The only difference is that he's arguing for moralism instead of Catholicism. He's trying to get people to be less argumentative, which is a worthy goal, and arguing that truth doesn't matter to achieve that. Jesus taught the exact opposite. In John 17:17, he prayed, "Sanctify them in the truth. Your word is truth." To sanctify someone is to make them holy, to make them a better person, more set apart for God and his purposes, more like God himself. The truth of the Bible is what does that. Truth is like a tuning fork for a piano, and without it, we're left trying to play in tune by ear with no standard to guide us. Jesus urged his followers to reflect deeply on his words and promised that doing so would free them from sin. In John 8:31 and 32, he said, "If you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Second, truth is essential to receiving God's help to change. If God didn't care about truth, then maybe we shouldn't get so worked up about it either. But according to the Bible, truth is critical to worship God and to experience his nearness. Jesus taught, God is spirit, and those who worship him must worship in spirit and truth. We tend to balk at this idea today, but how close could you be to someone who stubbornly misunderstood who you were and insisted on calling you Brad when your name was Fred? David had it right in Psalm 145 when he said, "The Lord is near to all who call on him in truth." To ignore truth and just try to be a better person is to ignore the help that God alone can give to help us to see some of our blind spots and overcome our resistance to change. Third, hypocrisy, not truth, is what turns people off. When I mentioned the conclusion Gully came to as he reflected on his playground arguments, I said there was something about it that rang true. I think that's because he and his friend just seemed to be fighting. They probably didn't have the maturity to genuinely long for the other's good. They probably weren't praying for each other or living out the truths they so ardently argued for. And so the arguments sounded petty and proud. And many people never graduate past this. The Bible confronts this as hypocrisy. For example, 1 John 3:18 says, "Let us not love in word or talk, but in deed and in truth." If your faith is all talk, then it's not genuine faith. Real faith is passionate about truth, but lived out in deeds. And Christians are called to speak the truth in love and follow Jesus, who came full of grace and truth. If we abandon grace or truth, we've proven Gully right, but I'm not convinced that it will make us better people. Let's be passionate about truth, but not just to be right. Let's seek God for the truth that will set us free. And when we share that truth, let's do it with just as much grace as Jesus did. The world needs more of that right now. That's all for this time. If today's video has helped you get out of neutral, leave a comment, share it with your friends, and subscribe to join us on the journey.